you. Good evening. The Planning Commission meeting of December 6th, 2023 is called to order. The Planning Commission meeting is being broadcast live on Glendale TV, viewable on Spectrum Cable Channel 6 and AT&T UVerse Channel 99. Meetings are also streamed live in high definition on the city's webpage, glendaleca.gov//live. On youtube.com and on Apple TV, Roku, and Amazon Fire devices using a free app called ScreenWeave and choosing Glendale TV from the menu. Meetings are also archived on the city website for viewing anytime at glendaleca.gov. Look for agendas. For public comments and questions during the meeting, please call area code 818-937-8100. City staff will be submitting the questions and comments in real time to the appropriate person. Current Planning Commission's agendas are available by visiting our website, www.glendaleca.com. I will do roll call. Commissioner Tarachian.
Here.
Commissioner Lee.
Here.
Commissioner Manassian.
Here.
As we are absent a vice chair this evening, the first order of business will be to nominate a chair pro tem, and at which time I will entertain nominations right now.
I'd like to nominate Commissioner Strachan as a
As the chair pro tem?
chair pro tem. Thank you.
Okay. Are there any other nominations? Hearing none, I will take a vote for Chair Pro Tem.
Okay.
Aye.
Yes?
Yes.
Great. And I will turn it over now to Chair Pro Tem Tarachian for the rest of the agenda.
Thank you. So next we have reports regarding posting of the agenda. The agenda for the December 6, 2023 regular meeting of the Glendale Planning Commission was posted on November 29th, 2023 on the bulletin board outside City Hall. Next we have approval of minutes. I don't believe we have the votes necessary, so we can move this to next time. Following that's any oral communication. Is there anyone that would like to speak?
That's not on the agenda. Hearing
Okay.
none, we can move on.
Do we have any board or commission member comments? Looks like we don't have old business, so next we'll handle the new business item, 1501 Fifth Street Wireless Telecommunications Facility Permit Case Number PWTF 000501-2022, and I believe we have a presentation.
Yes, I will turn it over to Case Planner Cassandra Pruitt, who will give us a presentation on this agenda item. Cassandra?
Good evening, Chair, Commissioners, and members of the public. As Kristen said, I'm Cassandra Pruitt. I'm the case planner for this project, which is a new wireless facility at 1501 Fifth Street. The site is located in West Glendale at the south intersection of 5th Street and Sonora Avenue, as indicated on this slide by the red dot and the red polygon. The lower right map on this slide shows the zoning, which is multifamily residential on the subject and surrounding sites. The application proposal is to establish a new wireless facility on the rooftop of an existing residential apartment building, which is 3 stories over a semi-subterranean parking garage. The proposed equipment and screening is 7 feet and 4 inches tall, which extends the existing building height of 40 feet and 11 inches to a total of 48 feet and 3 inches. This exceeds the code allowed building height of 36 feet in the R2250 zone. The equipment is exceeding the allowed height because the technical requirements for the signal to reach the desired distance and to be effective cannot be met without being located at the top of the building, which is already at the maximum allowed height. In terms of environmental review, it is important to note that the City of Glendale has no authority to review the environmental effects of radio frequency emissions from wireless telecommunications facilities. Per federal law, only the federal government may review such impacts, and the city's only role is to review the design and zoning standards as set forth in the Glendale Municipal Code, which is what I'll go over during this presentation. The project is exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act because it is a minor modification to an existing building. This site plan shows the proposed equipment in relation to the property boundaries. The red line indicates the property boundary. The blue line indicates the building outline, and in this case, there is an internal courtyard with additional buildings. The yellow boxes here, here, and here indicate the proposed wireless equipment. As can be seen on the slide, all of the wireless antennas are proposed at the edges of the facade, and they're not stepped back from the facade. The equipment cabinet is slightly set back from the facade. The code does require the equipment to be stepped back from the facades. On the elevations, the proposed equipment is shown by these red outlined grade boxes on the rooftop. The proposed equipment features boxed shapes, which is consistent with the boxed shapes featured all across the building design and facade. And they are also proposed to match the color and texture of the existing exterior building finish materials. These are additional elevations from the other views. These simulations show the existing building and then what the equipment will look like once it's installed. This is the view from 5th Street. As you can see, the equipment is flush with the outer edge of the building facade, but it does continue the same building form and materials. This simulation shows the existing versus proposed view from 5th Street, looking off towards the side, the left side of the building. And here the equipment screening is also flush with the outer facade of the building. The simulation shows existing versus proposed from Sonora Avenue. Again, you can see the equipment is flush with the facade, although in this case, this part of the facade is slightly set back from the adjacent edges of the building. In terms of the facility being necessary to close a significant gap in coverage, Dish Wireless, who is the applicant, is a new wireless carrier and currently has no sites providing coverage in Glendale and the surrounding areas. This site is one of 13 proposed facilities in Glendale that are part of the initial coverage deployment as mandated by the FCC. This slide shows the coverage map with the proposed facility only. And this slide shows what would be the coverage once the entire Dish network gets built out. The findings of fact are shown on this slide, and they're detailed in the staff report. They've been demonstrated to be met with a recommended condition of approval. As shown on the prior slides, the facility is not stepped back from the building facades, as is required by the zoning code chapter for wireless facilities. A condition of approval has been recommended to step back the equipment from the building facades. Other than that, the design of the equipment seems to be architecturally integrated into the building to the extent reasonably feasible, and it is cited as necessary to achieve the technical requirements of the facility. There doesn't appear to be any reconfiguration or relocation of the facility that would increase compatibility with the community. As shown on the coverage maps, the facility is necessary to address Dish's gap in coverage, and the applicant has provided a statement of willingness to co-locate on the site with other carriers. The facility is not anticipated to generate noise in excess of the city's maximum allowed noise level, but a condition of approval has been recommended to ensure the facility complies with the city's noise ordinance. Additional standard conditions of approval that are typically placed on projects like these have also been recommended to ensure that the facility operates compatibly with the community. The applicant asserts that the facility complies with state and federal regulations and has provided a written letter indicating, I already mentioned that, its willingness to co-locate with other carriers. The project was reviewed by the city's Wireless Communications Bureau, and no issues were identified. As a note, no public comments were received through phone or email for this project. And therefore, based on the information just presented and the staff report, the recommendation is to approve with conditions, with the condition of approval to step back the equipment and other standard conditions, and also with a 10-year expiration date, which is the standard expiration date for new wireless facility applications. That concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any questions of staff?
I have one question. You mentioned that they agreed to share the facility with other carriers. Are there any existing carriers currently there or no?
There's no existing carriers and there's no other proposed carriers at this time. We just ask that they do that at the beginning, just in case in the future another carrier wants to locate there. It's understood from the beginning that it's not exclusive to just one carrier.
One more question. You handed us this private, the report that we got, but earlier in your presentation, you were saying that city is not allowed to review any environmental reports and all that. It's federal government. Is this something that relates to that?
That is something that one of the audience members dropped off, and it's part of their presentation.
Okay, if we don't have additional questions at this time, I'd like to pass it to the applicant. You'll have 5 minutes to speak. Please give us your name and address, and we look forward to your presentation.
All right. Thank you, and thank you, staff, for your support. Thank you, commissioners, for your patience, too. My name is Alex Sadaroff. If I look familiar, I've been here before. I work for a company called Morrison Hershfield. We are the consultants on this project, and we work for Dish Wireless. So we're excited to be here. This project's been in the works for last year or so happy to be here. Really briefly, I just want to give you a recap about Dish, who they are, what the purpose of the project is, and just kind of discuss the project a little bit. Dish Wireless is a publicly traded company. It's been in business for 40 years. And as a result of the 2020 merger between T-Mobile and Sprint, at the federal level, FCC wants to encourage competition for consumers and roll out high-speed capabilities. So the federal government has mandated for Dish to be the fourth carrier. Essentially, you've got Verizon, T-Mobile, AT&T, and then Dish is the fourth kind of smaller player in the business. And so as part of those conditions, the FCC has put certain conditions and milestones that must be met. The first milestone was to meet 70% coverage of the United States by June 2023. That initial milestone has been met. The next milestone is to cover 75% of the United States. That's June 2025. This project will be part of that phase 2 rollout. And so as staff has mentioned in the presentation, the purpose of this project here today is to provide initial network coverage to the residents of Glendale. And just to be clear, there's no current coverage in the city of Glendale for Dish at all. So part of the process is we secure entitlements right with the property owners, the cities. We go build these sites, and then we can commission them and get them on air so we can get subscribers. So that's kind of where we're at. For this site in particular, based on our propagation models, we'll be able to cover approximately 18,000 residents in the city of Glendale, so a pretty significant number there. As staff mentioned, there's no existing wireless facilities currently on the property. It is a multifamily zone. In general, we try to avoid going in residential zones as much as possible. But sometimes due to the restrictions, limitations, topography, there's a number of factors where we have no other choice. And one of those things that we look at is to co-locate on existing towers. We look to co-locate on commercial zones, industrial zones. Those are preferred zones, right? At the very bottom of the list is residential zones. And so we looked at all that. We looked at what the surrounding area was and if there's any towers. And we actually, as part of our alternative analysis, presented some other options where we tried 3 or 4 different locations that just didn't work out, whether we couldn't get a lease with the property owner, maybe there was an existing tower that couldn't accommodate what we needed to accomplish technically, or the building was just too low or didn't have the right height. So there's a number of reasons why. And so as part of that, I think the design here today meets all the development standards. All of the equipment is going to be screened from public views. You won't see any of the equipment, any of the antennas. And so really it's going to blend in nicely with the community. It won't be a distraction to the residents. And just really briefly, regarding the height limit, it is a 36-foot, I think, height limit for this zone. However, the top of the existing parapet wall is 40 feet 11 inches. There's also a courtyard that's 46 feet 8 inches. Our new screens are going to be 7 feet 4 inches increased off the top of the parapet. So it's going to be negligible in comparison to the courtyard penthouse to what we have, which is going to be 48 feet to the top of our antenna screen. That's really briefly about DISH and kind of the project. And again, I want to appreciate the support and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
Yeah, I have a question. I think staff mentioned this, and also I think this is your first then cell tower that you will have plans to expand in Glendale. And then you mentioned that you also looked at some of the existing cell towers, and because of the, I guess, incompatibility or technical difficulties of your, then why is it that the other, the cell towers are able to use the existing sites versus why you cannot use the existing sites?
Yeah, so short answer is there's usually a number of factors why, and it's kind of case specific, right? Everyone's a little bit different, but I can just kind of, generally speaking, the existing towers that are in place have been in place for a long time. Typically, they've got 2 or 3 maybe users on there. And so what that does is on those towers, they may not have the height, they may not have the structural capacity to hold another carrier, or they may not have the ground space or the utility capacity. So it could be different reasons, but it just varies case by case.
So you did explore
We did.
the possibilities of those existing towers?
Yeah, we did. We looked at, if you want me to talk specifics.
So more specifically, so if you're looking to expand your service into other locations within City of Glendale, so which sites are you then considering if you're not going to use those existing cell towers?
So again, we look at existing towers. We actually have national agreements with all the major tower owners nationwide, and so it would be more preferential for us to go on those towers just because the economics work out better at the end of the day. We looked at a flagpole in one of the parks. Let me see if I've got the information here. Oh, it's right here, sorry. So we did look at, these are the locations we looked at. 1015 Grandview, which is commercial rooftop. We've tried, and I personally worked on these landlords and these deals, and the landlord was not interested, so we couldn't secure a deal there. We also looked at 1018 Grandview, which is, I might be butchering this, but it's Pelanconi Park. Hopefully I'm saying that. And it's a city-owned park. There's a flagpole there with an existing cellular communications tower in the park. However, because it's a flagpole, you can't really expand it and add another carrier. And in addition to that, you don't have the ground space there. So that immediately kind of eliminates that. And then we also looked at 1314 West Glen Oaks Boulevard, which was a rooftop with another existing carrier. I believe it's Verizon, I'm not sure exactly, but that rooftop location was at a much lower elevation, so topography-wise, and the building itself was only 30 feet tall. So in order to kind of minimize the number of sites and reach the maximum number, it just didn't work out for our purposes.
Yeah, I'll hold my questions for now. Yeah.
Just a, I guess, quick question or comment on my end. I think my only slight concern is obviously just given that this falls in a residential zone. And I appreciate kind of the background as to the selection process for the location. I guess my question is, are there any additional measures taken when you put a device like this in a residential zone as compared to maybe an industrial zone or something that's less dense when it comes to population of residents that stay overnight? Or is it just the same process when it comes to installation and then maintenance thereafter?
It's going to be the same, to answer your question, as far as maintenance and kind of day-to-day. Obviously, there'll be some disruption to the residents, very minimal, right? During the construction phase of this, there'll probably be some sort of scaffolding or a lift of that sort. But once the site is built and commissioned, it's really just kind of routine maintenance. There's not going to be any kind of construction activity after it's commissioned. So, but it doesn't vary from a tower to an industrial zone. It's all kind of the same. And there really shouldn't be much maintenance once the site's on air.
And how long was the site selection process, just out of curiosity?
So we started this process back in, I want to say it was early 2022. So it's taken a while to get here. And part of that is just not just the planning phase of it, but it's also the entitlement phase with the property owner as well.
Understood. Thank you. No additional questions at this time? Okay, thank you very much. I have 3 speaking cards here. First is from Simon. Okay. Do we have any callers? No callers on the line. The next is from Yvonne Persant.
Good evening, everybody. I'm not a public speaker, so I'm going to read from my speech. I prepared for this.
And please just state your name and address
My name is
before you
Ivan
speak.
Poissant, and I reside at 1320 Roberta in Glendale. It's about a quarter mile from the proposed cell site. And I've lived in Northwest Glendale for 35 years. We had a cell tower show up in Kennett Village 10 years ago, and all sorts of issues, health issues related to that. Nobody really talks about. But, I'm here to oppose this project. When I saw the sign, I got furious because this is just an utter assault. We've been notified lately on rolling out some towers in public property. Near our house lately, we've been to the council, the neighborhood campaign. We just don't want these 5G antennas in our neighborhood. They're dangerous. If anybody look at any publication, I give you some very intelligent material there from very smart people that says, stop the madness, pause, because these things have a danger associated with it, and irreversible damage is going to follow. So I'm here to deliver a message. I strongly object to this. We don't need any more wireless antenna in our neighborhood. It seems like our cellular coverage is adequate, and we don't need any more radiation from the cell tower. Okay, which is not a good thing. Very concerned about the health and safety of our local resident. Very important. When I see an antenna showing up on top of an apartment building, I'm thinking of the 50 tenants that are going to be affected by that. And now you have to look at the local residents that are affected by that. And then, in this case, it's within 1,000 feet of a school. My God. Every day, kids go there, be exposed. They're the most vulnerable, very clear. This should not be happening. This is irreversible. Once it's installed, nobody sees anything, and issues will follow. So I've given you material. There is, just to let you know, guys, I mean, I'm a general contractor and a building biologist. I'm looking out for health in buildings. I look at air, water, and now EMF. Scientists worldwide have called for an immediate stop on all 5G installation. And they're much more intelligent than I am, and there's thousands of them, not one guy. So this is not a marginal concept. They call for an immediate stop of all 5G wireless installation until this is proven to be safe. Hundreds of cities around the globe have stopped this 5G rollout over public safety concern. Italy is one of them. 600 municipality, no 5G in our municipality. This is important. In Europe,
Pardon for the interruption, that was the 3-minute timer.
oh, I thought I had 5. Okay, well,
The applicant gets 5. I'll leave it up to the chair.
well, I just need 1 minute.
Fine. Continue, please.
So, this is important. Flavor of the month, faster speed, all that nonsense, it's just propaganda. We don't actually need any more speed in Northwest Glendale. I got 5 bars wherever I go. It's not about that. So, I suggest, and I'm here to, the city of Glendale should consider what they're doing in Europe. It's called the precautionary principle. Engineering, planning, they look at environmental effects before they do something stupid. So the precautionary principle is a good idea. So I think that the city of Glendale should observe the precautionary principle and consider a moratorium on 5G installation. That property owner over there is going to incur a lot of liability with his building. Crazy. You know, from all its tenant, neighborhood, everything. There are consequences to these antennas. So, I want to thank you for your time. And I do want to point out that you can get fiber optic to every house and not have any problem. So wireless, 5G is not the problem, it's the wireless part. That's about all I have to say. Thank you very much. I gave you some information. I encourage you to read it and check it out.
Thank you very much, sir. I have one more speaking card here from Serki Megardomian. I don't see anyone else here.
I think there was someone here earlier, but he may have left.
Okay. Do I close the public hearing at this point?
I do want to ask,
Can we have the applicant back up, please? I guess
So-
first you're given 2 minutes to make closing remarks if you'd like, prior to our questions.
I think I've covered what I wanted to. I mean, at the end of the day, appreciate staff support and look forward to getting this project moving forward.
yeah, I see that our staff is recommending approval. Now, what happens if you do not get this approved? I mean, what does that do to your service? I mean, you do have, as the prior speaker have alluded to, that you know, if there's a good coverage using existing cell locations, and let's say if we deny this new location, what does that do to your service?
Well, we wouldn't have service, and we're required to have service. So the service, I think, that you're describing is for other carriers. I'm not here talking about other carriers. I'm here representing Dish Wireless, which is a new carrier. And so being that we're a new carrier, we need to.
I guess that's the part that I'm having a little hard time understanding is that other carriers are able to use these existing cell towers or, you know, and then have good coverages. Why can't your company use the same location, you know, out of the residential zone and then provide same type of coverages?
I mean, wireless networks are very complex, right? And our network uses different equipment, different frequencies. We have different licenses that don't go as far, right? Or maybe do go as far. And so it's kind of tough to say, you know, if comparing apples to apples, unless we look at specific examples. But the other carriers have mature networks, right? And so those locations, like I touched on earlier, have already kind of taken the best spots on those towers, if those towers even exist. And then just the design and network architecture, it just depends on where the other sites are. You need to have handoff in between sites, otherwise you have a gap in your network. Right now we have a gap in our network. And so without specifically looking at an example, I'm just letting you know that if we don't get the site, we will have a gap in our network and we will have to find another site somewhere in a residential zone, most likely here, adjacent to where the current project is. So it's not going away.
Do you have any additional questions?
So I have a question for our city attorney then. I mean, they are mandated by, you know, to provide this service as a fourth, I guess, service provider. What is our liability from the city point?
Members of the Planning Commission, your responsibility is to consider the findings in the staff report. As Ms. Cassandra Pruitt mentioned, you know, however you feel about the issue, federal law prohibits the city from considering or the RF frequencies being part of our decision. If it is part of our decision, then, you know, the carrier has some other legal remedies you could pursue.
Oh, yeah, I think I got it. Okay.
Thank you very much. So I'll close the public hearing. and open for deliberation.
I reviewed some of these reports. The fact that it's all residential, multifamily, schools, small kids, I just don't feel comfortable with the towers installed in residential neighborhood. But
Is your mic on?
yes, it's on. I'm kind of far.
Speak closer.
Yeah, yeah. I was saying that I just don't feel comfortable with the location of the towers. It's centered in the residential area. There's a school there, and there's a lot of families with we don't know what the consequences are of these radio waves or cell towers. So that's my opinion. I don't feel comfortable with this project.
I'm not against having cell towers, but I have a little reservation of, for obviously, the questions that I was asking. And, that's why I was physically asking. I see that your equipment might be a little bit different technically from other cell providers. And these cell providers, the towers, existing towers also, they're able to share that. I mean, some physically, maybe not, but it's there, and then I think you're able to use those towers. So, but you chose to start your first cell tower at a residential, and that's why when Commissioner Straction asked you, how long have you done your research, and you have more to come of these things, and I hope this is not present setting, because you start from the residential and then you're going to go into other residential areas, whereas we have existing cell sites. So my personal preference is that for you to really seriously, if you're going to start this service, is really start your coverages from existing cell sites. That's my preference, but I particularly do not have any objections of establishing cell towers, at the locations that at later point, and as you're making your coverages, you have that gap that you really need to close. Then I think that's what we need to really take a look at it. But as your first cell site, for you to choose this residential, I have reservations.
So this is certainly a challenging one, and I can echo some of the concerns that were raised earlier in our meeting. I think ultimately I have to take a slightly different angle here and look at it from what's our purview as a planning commission and what exactly we as planning commissioners are being asked to review. How I understand it, we're basically deciding whether to approve of this based on design and zoning standards. In my opinion, both of these are met, regardless of some outside factors that may certainly be of concern that are either out of our hands as planning commissioners or, is either up for interpretation between our city attorney and the federal level and whatever else the case may be. I'm not a scientist, so I can't speak to expertise as to some of the ramifications for this project, nor is it the Planning Commission's role to decide based on those issues, though I can certainly understand the concerns as a resident of Glendale myself. I think ultimately, I would be willing to support the project. I think that the applicant, they've done their due diligence in going from various sites, and how I understand it, there will have to be some sort of coverage in this area regardless. And it seems to me like whether it's on this property or another property, that particular pocket is primarily zoned residential or will be adjacent to residential anyway. So for all of those factors within our purview as commissioners, I would be inclined to approve the project regardless of my personal hesitancies, many of which have been discussed. And that's why I believe this is a challenging topic for our commission.
I just want to remind the commission, Cassandra brought up the findings of fact that are included in your staff report and are part of the code of what is the purview, what are the findings that the commission and staff have to present and make for a wireless telecommunications facilities permit.
Yes, I understand that. So, I agree with the Commissioner's direction. I mean, as for the, the project itself standing, I have no objections. Yeah, I did express my personal concerns of your, initial selection, but, I am willing to support the project, although that I do have some concerns, project by itself and under our purview, I'm willing to support.
I want to thank you, Chairman Taraxian, that basically steered me correctly because I had my personal emotions of getting involved as far as the damages that it can cause. But we're here to enforce the codes and zones, and this is all according to the project. So I will support the project.
Yes, with that, I'd like to make a motion.
I'll second the motion.
You want me to read it into or?
Sure.
Yeah, okay. Moved by Commissioner Lee, seconded by Commissioner Straction, that upon review and consideration of all materials and exhibits of a current record relative to wireless telecommunication facility, case number PWTF-000-501-2022, located at 1501 5th Street, and after having conducted a public hearing on said matter, that the Planning Commission hereby approves wireless telecommunications facility PWTF-000-501-2022 in accord with the findings of fact and conditions set forth below, and that includes findings of facts, and I guess that's it.
I'll do roll call. Commissioner Lee?
Aye.
Commissioner Manassian?
Yes.
Chair Pro Tem Tarachian.
Yes.
With that, item 7 is approved. I'll move on to 8, being Community Development Department updates. Don't have any updates per se. This is the last meeting of December for the commission. We will pick up again in the new year in January, and just wanted to wish everyone here in the room and the commissioners a very, very happy holidays and a happy new year.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays. I'd like to move for adjournment.
So moved.
Thank you all.
Thank you.